So in the end of the season, the Ravens pretty much end up with a big jumbled mess after the Flacco injury and the Forsett injury. Basically, everything ended up with pretty much a jumbled mess, especially when torn ACL happened. So it just crazy, crazy mess. Hello, YouTube. I'm Jason Johnson, and welcome to How Will This Season Go? Something new I'm doing. It's pretty much how I am looking through the seasons go by, how each season is going to go, how this season is going to go through, how I think it's going to go, and as giving my honest opinion about it. Reason why? Because I am a smartass. So, we're going through the Baltimore Ravens 2016. I'm predicting how the 2016 Ravens season is going to go, basically. So, what happened last year? So, if you don't know what happened last year with the Ravens, this is how it happened. So, in 2014, the Ravens ended up with a good season. Good 2014, after pretty much losing to the Patriots due to pretty much our secondary just shutting down and at key situations. The Ravens wanted to enter 2015 with a much better season. With a much better 2015 with giving the work and on getting a brand new secondary, working on improving our secondary. And so, what happened? What happened was this. Well, the regular season started out pretty all right. Basically, in the first game between the Denver Broncos, yet sadly the Ravens lost by 6 points. They ended up giving Peyton Manning a run for his money and ended up keeping pace. It ended up had a chance to win, but last second interception by a former Raven stopped that from happening. Next, what came against the Oakland Raiders, and another close loss, despite the fact, and pretty much immediately thought with all Ravens fans was, well, this is about to be an easy W, pretty much, and ended up with Derek Carr, ended up beating Peyton Manning on his best day, and ended up winning, and ended up with another close loss where our season starts out 0-2. Okay, so that's a weird start. Then the Ravens play against Cincinnati the next week, and somehow Ravens defense somehow cannot find a way to stop pretty much AJ Green, who I despise to death, pretty much ends up somehow winning through that season and somehow pulls off. And of course, Cincinnati combined to win another game again. So the Ravens started out on 3. Then they at least beat the Steelers at Pittsburgh with a last second field goal by Justin Tucker, 23-20. That was good. And then Cleveland, and that's like, okay, now we can get back. Now I'm thinking, okay, we're getting back on pace now. Then the Ravens ends up losing to the Browns by a field goal in overtime. Okay, it's a weird start. I go. Then again, they lost to San Francisco by 5 points. They lost to Arizona by 8. Then, they end up getting themselves back up before the bye week. They end up winning against San Diego. Sweet. Then game against Jacksonville. And pretty much lose by 2 points. 2 points. By 2 points on a last-second field goal, which would have never happened if the Ravens somehow a last-second face mask penalty ended up happening. And at home, so basically you losing to, which is a big sign of, wow, this season is not going to end up being as good as we think. Then a game against St. Louis, where we end up winning, sad at the cost of Justin Forsett and Joe Flacco, which ends up being more worse than we think. Then they came back against Cleveland, and then pretty much they then lose 3 straight games, 2 of them by a blowout to Seattle and the Chiefs. And then the good news is we still swept Pittsburgh, so it's better than nothing. And then going back, ending their season by losing to the Bengals at Cincinnati on the last week of the season for pretty much for 4th year in a row. So that's what happened with the Ravens. Basically, the problem is that everything was good. Our offense is good. It's just there was only thing that happened was pretty much injuries happened. First injury was with Steve Smith Sr. He ends up getting injured a bit and then injured for good again with a torn ACL. Then next, but injuries to Joe Flacco and Justin Forsett happens, and it ends up, and then right after the St. Louis game, by the time that happened, everything else happened, being a 2 great big wreck. Next thing you know, we end up having to have 3 different quarterbacks backups, go for 3 different backups. First one was with Matt Schaub, who ended up winning a game at Cleveland. Hey, good job. Then losing to Miami. No problem there. Then of course, then he gets injured there. Then next we have Jimmy Clausen, and pretty much we just picked up off free agency or practice squad. And then 2 matches happened there. and then finally Ryan Mallett showed up, and then it just went. And hey, he picked up 1 win against the Steelers. Hey, picking up 1 win helps. And then we had 2 more like running backs to help us out with this one, and it got more jumble with. Then some players stepped up to be lead receiver. One person was Kamar Aiken, young man who actually stepped up. So the Ravens end up having, and big thing was pretty much a tight end situation. Pretty much Dennis Pitta got injured. Pretty much Dennis Pitta, Crockett Gilmore, Max Williams Jr., Nick Boyle. I mean, by the time the season was over with, there was no more tight ends. So there was a lot of things that happened that season. Last season, it ended up being a whole big jumble mess. Now, if I wanted to fix, this is pretty much, so that's what happened last year. This year, I think it looks a lot more promising on this side of the road. So, as a fan, so that's what happened last year. Pretty much this whole jumble mess. Now I say we move on to this season. That's why let's begin with let's predict this season. So, this is what we got so far. So, Ravens have so far this season, it looks like a good, strong, pretty much a much better start to the season than they did last year. So, let's look at is pretty much what they got so far. The number of teams who aren't in the playoffs before we even get to the meat and grind of the whole real season is pretty much around mid-season. Basically, the biggest part of it is pretty much in weeks 9 to 14. 9 to 14. And those 6 games, big 6 games right at that point, are probably the biggest games. So, how are they the biggest? Because not only do we start off by playing against Pittsburgh at Baltimore, which is actually on my birthday, if you want to know that. Cleveland on a Thursday, going to Dallas on a Sunday. Then the first game between the Bengals, next between the Miami Dolphins, and then a Monday night game between the New England Patriots. Those 6 games are probably the most toughest games yet. The good news is 4 of those games are at home. The two big ones are on the road, are Dallas and New England. Those games are huge, are big at that point. So those are games that are big at that point, because that's pretty much a majority of the big games that case of season. Also, now we also got to look at has the secondary better than they are now? Well, in some cases, you look at what the Ravens did in free agency. The Ravens did not go overboard with them, but one big one they did get was a great big-time cornerback. And one big-time cornerback was Eric Weddle, who was with the San Diego Chargers, who was a great cornerback, who played for the Chargers, and ended up in the Pro Bowl. So a Pro Bowl safety is bigger than anyone. He's much bigger than anyone else you can think of. And if you look at the draft, most of the draft, the only big time receivers who can make big plays were either Steve Smith, and honestly that's it. So the Ravens end up getting some. Then the Ravens needed to bolster up their offensive line. They end up losing a couple offensive guys and offensive tackles. They drafted the first pick in the first round. Their pick in the first round was Ronnie Stanley, who is from Notre Dame. They chose him. They picked him out of a bunch. He ends up going to them. Next, they end up getting a couple more players. They even bolstered their defensive line because of what happened with Loinada and pretty much going to the Lions, and a couple more guys end up disappearing. So that makes sense, because I think we're going to need something like that. And we end up getting. So we almost got exactly what we needed, and also we end up getting at least a tight end, because honestly, we're going to need some more depth. We probably need some depth at tight end, because Dennis Pitta, he's because Dennis Pitta, he's gone a little stroppy here, so he's gone a little stroppy. So understand. So that's something there. So next, so what we have so far this season. So I say this, I don't know how the season. It's a regular preseason. If anyone's wondering, I'm not really covering the preseason. First off, I'm not doing that. I could do that if you guys want me to, but we're playing against Carolina, who has Carolina, Indianapolis, Detroit, and New Orleans. Pretty much, Indianapolis has a couple players for former Ravens in Indy. The Panthers pretty much has Michael Orr. Played with Ravens 2012 team. Detroit, Loinada, and then New Orleans, who was the team that won the Super Bowl, where the stadium where the Ravens won their second Super Bowl in 2012. That year. Or 2013, actually. Sorry. Pardon me. So, this is what we got. So, let's start off with pretty much the Bills versus the Ravens. So, basically, this game is at home. So, let's see this. This game is at home. The Ravens. Let's see. This game is at home. It features the Buffalo Bills, who with a former backup by the name of Tyrod Taylor, who ends up being their starter. Staying in games against Rex Ryan. Buffalo Bills are somehow a team who could make an impact, and they can do some wonders. But I think this one, the Ravens are pretty much going to be the more improved team. They actually withstand through Tyrod Taylor. They actually, besides Percy Harvin premature retiring for the season start, for the draft, and pretty much a lot of insane, crazy stuff happening. Pretty much, it doesn't look like the Bills have that big time receivers that they thought they did. So as a result, there is no. So because of that, we don't have the Bills. We have the Ravens winning this one with the Bills. We're gonna start off with that. Ravens start off 1-0. Next is between the Ravens and the Browns. Browns at Cleveland. They were at Cleveland this week. So this one, we're gonna have to look at Cleveland here. So let's look at what happened with Cleveland. So John Manziel is out. They end up getting Robert Griffin III, RG3 in free agency. They got a new head coach, former offensive coordinator for the Bengals, Hugh Jackson. They end up having to do some crazy stuff, try to get some people around, and so Cleveland has a lot more things to improve upon before even getting close to near the level of the rest of the division. So I'm going to say but Ravens win, but they may have, but of course this is at Cleveland, and crazy things can happen in Cleveland, so it could be a closer game, but nothing the Ravens can handle. So the Ravens are up right now 2-0, are now leading the season 2-0, and with a division win under their belt, which is a big start down the line. Comes to, like, say, the tiebreakers towards the end of the season. So next we end up with the game with Ravens and the Jaguars at Jacksonville. This time it's at Jacksonville, and let's say this: the Ravens are probably gonna come look at that game, have that game right now circled right now. I mean, literally circling that game because, believe me, as a Ravens fan, because basically, if you're a Jacksonville fan, your mind is like, yes, the Ravens we beat the Ravens. We are great. We're better. To meet the Ravens fans and everyone else, our minds was fuck, fuck. God damn it, fuck. Okay, sorry. But the Ravens, they are not taking this game lightly. And pretty much, let's face it, Jacksonville is not anywhere as good as Cleveland. So I'm saying this, the Ravens, they're going to handle the Jaguars pretty good at home. Pretty much, I expect to see. And pretty much this one, I think pretty much just like what Joe Flacco did with the Buccaneers 2 years ago in 2014, I kind of expect that same result to happen at that game. Because I don't see Jacksonville have that good of a secondary, so I kind of would say this is a game the Ravens win, hands down. The Ravens are already 3-0 at this point. So move on next we go on to Oakland. Next, the Ravens go home. They play against Oakland at home. This time, Oakland is actually making a lot of strides. They end up getting some having a lot of players, picking up some more players, and they have improved themselves. Actually, they have shown they can prove themselves more. They're pretty much rebuilding. Since the 90s, the Raiders have been laying low a bit, kind of, since they last playoff, because remember, the last playoff appearance the Oakland Raiders made was in 2002, and that was when they were playing against the Buccaneers. Imagine seriously, that is 14, that's right now 14 years, if you think about it right now. So for 14 seasons, for almost 14 seasons, not only the Raiders and the Buccaneers have, now the Raiders and the Bucks, they both have had some big wins, but haven't really broken at that point of getting to the playoffs. This one, Raiders may be one of those guys that the AFC might look out for, because they could be one of those players who could end up with a surprise, ends up being in the playoffs, and could make some strides getting into the playoffs. To them, that's something that I think is going to happen. So my honest opinion is that the Ravens lose the Raiders. It's a 50-50 game. So, but in this case, I say it's going to come close. And it could go to OT if possible. And the Raiders somehow walk out of this game. This game, you're right here with a field goal. With a field goal in overtime. It's a 50-50 chance, but that's what I think is going to happen. That's what I think is going to happen between the Ravens and the Raiders. So Baltimore ends up still 3-1. It's interesting. But that's what's going to happen. Next week, the Ravens play against the Redskins, and you think about the Redskins, they end up shocking a lot of people. They kind of shocked a lot of people, including me, when Kirk Cousins was starter. The question was pretty much him ending up being the guy winning with. So watching Redskins, this one is kind of an interesting thing because usually the Redskins and Ravens usually play in the preseason, not most of the time, not usually on the regular season. So this is a rare occasion in the regular season. What happens from there? I'm gonna say they're both pretty good. I say that the team who walks out of this game with the victory, I don't really think who is gonna win that game. But it seems like a game the Ravens are probably gonna be will probably overlook a bit, but overall the Ravens will get punched in the mouth a bit. We'll get punched in the mouth a bit by the Redskins, but in the end the Ravens win by a good fair margin. I say at least a touchdown, maybe 2 touchdowns, maybe, or 10 to 17 points margin the game. So look at this. The Ravens are 4-1 right now at this point in the season. Next we have the Giants. Next is the New York Giants. Now this one is at MetLife. It's pretty much at MetLife Stadium this time. The question there is, what can you expect from that game? Exactly from that game? I don't know. I don't think you really would expect much from that point, basically. Expect from that point in the game. From that point in the game. So I don't know. Basically, I think in my opinion, I think that but honestly, I think in my opinion, I don't really see much of the Giants really put up a fight. I don't think it's what can I say about this one? It's an interesting game here, but the Giants are one of those teams you can I don't see much of a challenge. I think basically the Ravens actually pull out the game for victory over them. I say the Ravens win with margin. I say about I guess the same here with the Redskins. I say 7 to 10 points margin, I guess. Basically, I don't know. It's kind of a question. It's a hard question with the Giants. I don't know. It's hard to tell with this one. So I'm gonna say Ravens beat Giants with 7 to 9 points in this one. So Ravens ends up starting out in a good starts out 5-1. This is the first 6 weeks of the season. 6 weeks of the season ends up. They end up Ravens win 5 out of their first 6 games. Start out really very hot right here. So, and then there's a game between the Jets in the MetLife and at MetLife. So basically, the next week I'm probably sure the Ravens are just gonna stay in New York and probably just practice with the Giants. I guess to just stay for a week. Giants for a week and pretty much just practice with them. With them until pretty much the Ravens end up playing against the Ravens play against Jets. Basically, Ravens play against the Jets, and I don't know. The Jets have their moments of glory, and somehow they start off good, and somehow start off not good at the end. So I don't know what we have here, but I think at this point, I say the Ravens kind of go through this one, kind of with a bit of 7. Again, I think Ravens win 7 to 10 point margin at this point. So I say from here, the Ravens come out into the bye week at a great start, 6-1. That's pretty much my best part about this. So the bye week happens around Halloween weekend, and so we get to the Ravens versus Steelers, and this happens on November 6th, aka, which is also this guy's birthday. Seriously, if you want to send me presents, Probably send me presents. Seriously, my address is in the description, but will be in the description below. in the description below. Seriously. Hell, you can send me a birthday message on Twitter, on my Twitter account, at DarkSavior1996, and also pretty much a lot of things. Seriously, send me presents. Send me presents if you want to. So, what happens there, I think, in this case, from here, the Ravens, of course, most of the games that the Ravens play against Steelers, most of them end up by a field goal. So I'm thinking this is what's going to happen here. It's going to end in a field goal with the Ravens going over on this one. Of course, Ravens Steelers, always a physical, great rivalry. Rivalry is going to end up in a field goal. Someone's getting, and it's not as much of an impact as pretty much it's not as totally as physical as the games between Steelers and Cincinnati, because I think basically the Ravens Steelers knows that we know when enough is enough. We don't go above and beyond what happened. Seriously. What happened with the Ravens, the Steelers, and Bengals, I don't know why they got that physical. I mean, first of all, you guys this ain't the 70s. If this was, yeah, you have every right to do that. At that level of physicality, you can do it. But at this point, you're pretty much going over the top. Especially at the time of a movie called Concussion happened. So, way overkill Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. That's my 2 cents about that. Now we go to Thursday night. So next we go on Thursday against Cleveland. And at this point, let's be honest, let's be honest, Baltimore's winning this game against Cleveland. So this is a W right here. So next we go against Dallas versus Baltimore. We go with Dallas against Baltimore. This game is a tough game, especially it's on the road, so you're going to have a loud crowd at Dallas. And second, you're pretty much, and this is at another time zone, and there's something about the Ravens have problems with traveling to different time zones. It's a weird thing. I don't know. It's somehow it's somehow a bit of a bug we get bit by. So in this one, we're going. The Ravens somehow lose this one. So loses one, but I say it's by a touchdown. I say it's by a touchdown, or by a field goal. 3 to 7 point margin, lost. It's a close one. It's a lot, but it's still a loss. So Ravens at this point are already 7, 8, and 2. Are 8 and 2. And Tane comes back next week, comes home to face Cincinnati, and this one is a big one, because right now the Ravens have already beaten Cleveland twice and Pittsburgh. So the Ravens are already won 3 division games already. Why I ask everyone to put a pin on this one, because this is a big one that could determine a tiebreaker at the end of the season, where at the end of the season, the Ravens pretty much play against, when the Ravens play against Cincinnati, this is one things about the schedule that works with the Ravens. Basically, this one has where the Ravens are in, where usually in some cases the Ravens play against the Bengals at really early part of the season, which ends up being probably a very bad detriment to the freaking ends up being a bit of a total detriment to that season. Being a bit of a detriment to the season already. Still a bit of a detriment this season. This one is somehow, and basically, the Ravens ends up, what I think is going to happen is Ravens start out 3-0 in the division. Basically, if the Ravens losing this game ends up pulling them out of the season, because at this point, if by the time this game happens and the Steelers game, for Ravens and Bengals don't have to play each other in another 5 weeks. That's 4 games. So 4 weeks in between opponents. So, happens, the Ravens, they end up, so I say this, the Ravens end up losing this game, but this time, it's not because of AJ Green. Because it's not because of AJ Green. Basically, we don't have no come from behind, AJ Green last minute, AJ Green touchdown. We have this season ends. We have this season end on a last second. We have this season end on a last second. We have his end on a last second field goal. And the Bengals end up pulling out last second on the last play by a field goal. So AJ Green doesn't get the victory. This week. It's Mike Nugent. It's Mike Nugent this week. So Mike Nugent gets the W for the Bengals. So it happens on a close, hard-fought margin. By a close margin this time. It's close, but it ends that way. So the Ravens end up losing 2 games. Ends up losing 2 straight between Dallas and Cincinnati. But it's a hard-fought 2 points. It's a hard-fought 2 losses. No blowouts like this time. Next, we go against Miami. This one is an interesting game. This one's at home at Baltimore. So Ravens still at home in Baltimore. This time they play against the Dolphins. And I think this time the Ravens pull something out against ends up getting the W this time, and the Ravens are already have lost 3 games, but already lost 3 games so far. So we're at week 13. The Ravens have already won. So we already described the Ravens have won 6 out of their first 7 games before the bye week happens. They win 2 straight, which makes them 8-1. Then they lose 2 straight. So we have 8. So we're right now 8-3. So we're 8-3 right now. So we're 8 wins, 3 losses. Okay, so the Ravens season is right now 8-3. Now going into their Monday night game against the Patriots. And this one is pretty much first off a rematch of course, of 2014 AFC divisional round. This game. So this time the Ravens play against New England, and this one is kind of an interesting game here, because the Patriots are kind of wanting us, because we're kind of the team that kind of started Deflategate, kind of got pretty much started Deflategate. Yes, we are kind of the team that kind of started Deflategate, because basically our special teams coaches pretty much told some word about the Colts to the Colts, like, hey, you might want to check the Patriots footballs, because they lose some air very quickly. And then pretty much what happened with the Patriots and Colts happened, and the next thing you know, we end up with, of course, Deflategate. Then it happened there. Everything that's happened in courts. Basically now, thank God, thank God, that Tom Brady is getting this 4-game suspension. Seriously, the NFL Players Association, I'm asking you, please don't take this to the Supreme Court. Because basically, there is no reason that the Supreme Court should talk about this freaking case at all. Seriously, let's give Tom Brady deserves to stay out the first 4 weeks this season. So, okay, let's end it right there, right now. Okay? That's it. We're done. Ravens lose. So, Tom Brady loses. I'm sorry. But I say this, in the end, I think this is a close one. It's a close one. It's fought. And I think this time we end up getting the Ravens do win with get out of there with the last second field goal. And of course, Justin Tucker pulls through with the last second clutch field goal. Because this time, and Ravens win scot-free by within a 1-3 point margin because of that last second field goal. Because basically, seriously, there's no way Justin Tucker's missing a last second field goal, a very close field goal, unlike that Billy Cundiff. That's right, motherfucker. I hadn't forgotten about you, your ass. So that's what happens. Ravens pull out from the Patriots. They are now 9-3. Next, we go to Philadelphia. We go on to Philadelphia. Basically, this one, let's be honest, Philadelphia, the Eagles don't really seem to scare anyone. So it doesn't seem like anything the Eagles have made so far is gonna ultimately pull them out of fire and make them like a true contender. I mean, the NFC East division, Probably because that division always has a lot of always come down to the last week, very last week. And most of that has to do with the Cowboys and some team who's playing with them. Some mostly have to do with Cowboys and someone else. So basically, Ravens walk out of that one with a good W, easy W, with a couple touchdowns, with probably say 2 touchdown wins. So moving on now to Christmas Day, with this time with the Steelers at Pittsburgh. This time at Pittsburgh. And of course, just like every game, it's going to come down to a field goal. I say this time, but this time the Steelers end up walking out of here with that victory. Seriously, that victory. Steelers are walking out of here with the victory. So the Steelers win this one, but it doesn't. But right now, the Ravens are already now won. Are already right now, already. But it's not that difficult now because the Ravens are already at 11-4. They already have the playoff spot, pretty much already from possibly. This time, pretty much from beating the Steelers. So they're already alright as it is, ready getting into the playoffs already. So we move on now next and finally to the Ravens versus Bengals in Cincinnati. And of course, this one is, of course, that Ravens pretty much have had a horrible history with overall horrible history throughout the entire season. It's pretty much the end of the season. It's like the Cincinnati is kind of like the Bermuda Triangle of course, the Bermuda Triangle of pretty much of the season. Pretty much the Bermuda Triangle of the Ravens season, because somehow in the last week of the season, pretty much the 5th year in 6 seasons, we are playing against Cincinnati over and over in the last week of the season. And right now, this is a very serious issue. A very, very serious issue. So basically, if you're wondering what happened, pretty much, basically what's going on, things gonna happen is pretty much the Ravens let's see. Of course, this one is gonna be an even game. It's just pretty much by the time the season ends, by the end of the season, this is a winner-take-all season, winner-take-all game in the AFC North, because at this point, the Ravens have already gotten a substantial game lead on the Bengals. So basically, if the Bengals win this, I say this, at this point, from this point on, for the next 4 weeks, the Ravens and Bengals are already even right now. The Ravens have already won 3 of their past 4 games. 3 out of the past 4 games since beating Cincinnati. This time, the Ravens and the Bengals slip up. against, I think the Steve Bengals play against Pittsburgh at some point. At that point from those 4 games. So either in another top team. So I'm going with basically the Ravens are already ahead by this point a game. Already at this point ahead at a game. By a game. I say a game. So right now the Ravens are already at a game ahead of this point. So what happens next? I say the Ravens end up pulling out a little, at least. I think this time the Ravens end up pulling out that victory in Cincinnati this time. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Ravens pull out this game in Cincinnati with a win, and as a result, the Ravens end up 12-4. They win the division, and they are guaranteed a home playoff game. Now, what I think about now, in the case of does that give him a first round bye? First round bye? I don't know. First round bye? I don't know. I don't know. In other cases, now first round bye, maybe not. Maybe a first round bye, maybe not. But I don't know. It's different. It's questionable. If we got a first round bye, maybe there's some things now. Understand now you gotta think of the factors of injuries and everything else. Now, it's pretty much what I think is gonna happen. Just overall, there's a lot more factors you have to add in, like, okay, this player gets injured, or this player, or this situation happens, or there's a lot of things I know you gotta process, you gotta think through here on how each wing's gonna happen. But this is what I think is gonna happen. Ravens end the season 12-4. 12-4. They're in the playoffs. They win. This time they win the division. And they end up pulling out the supposed victory. A real, honest victory in Cincinnati, pulling off a victory. It's 12-4. They are in the playoffs. How they're going to do in the playoffs, I don't know. That one, we are going to have to figure out as the season goes by, if Ravens make the playoffs. So, I don't know anymore. I don't know how to explain any more about this. Basically, there's a whole lot of other questions you gotta think about, the factors. Let me know, but basically, honestly, I want to hear you guys give out your honest thoughts. What do you guys think is gonna happen this season? Throughout this season, basically, I have pretty much the season right here. You look at that schedule. Tell me what you think is going to happen. Seriously, I want you to know what you guys think. Don't take it from me. I want you guys to give me your honest thoughts. Leave it in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter. At DarkSaver1996. Also, I also got a Facebook now. You can follow me. You can follow me on Twitter. You can friend me now on Facebook if you want to. Also, you can follow me. You can add me on Instagram and Snapchat. JBuddy1196. JBuddy1196. And also, of course, listen to my music on SoundCloud. JBuddy96. Capital J, capital M, with the apostrophe on that. Between J and M. Also, The Great Hustle is available now on eBay. So if you guys want to listen to some you guys got an eBay play. And hey, if you guys got an eBay, you guys want to listen to some. Also, if you wanted a CD of it, costs $1. Simple, easy, and it's affordable. So, that's it there. I'm Jason Johnson. I'll see you guys next time. And Ravens all day. Peace. Now this game is about to kick off. This song looks whack. Let's take this on to straight hip-hop and start it from scratch. I'm about to play this track up, everybody get back. My pencil needs some pass, but my rhymes on the rag. She's like tucking through the lines, we're about to kick it. Like a magician, defense and critics turn to cricket. Kids on defense, we know when to pick it. Like about to get impaled, he knows who to stick it. So dark, got his tan, wait, that's my pigment. About to go hard, yeah, bitch, shout out to Frederick. Let's bring it back to the vintage Ravens, bitch. But defensive fouls and mix with the offensive 2012 area.